Hello. Okay, I figured to make another quick video on immigration and what the cause of this immigration is. Another cause, because there's a few causes, all right, on why and how it's happening in the first place. All right, everybody's saying it's this person's fault, it's that person's fault. Just listen to what I'm saying. All right. Okay. In respect to agriculture, if you say get a palm tree and put it in an area that's not native to its natural habitat, what is it that you think is going to happen? Well, you know what's going to happen, isn't it? The people are going to come with it. Okay. Now, had people knew this, would have they, is the question, put, say, California, for example. I see all these palm trees in California. Where did they come from? Are they native to California? Because if they're not, well then, which they're probably not, you got all these people coming up with them. And where did they come from? Well, the only place around California where those palm trees come from is Africa. And there's some in South America, if I'm right, palm trees. There's got to be some that are native to there. Yeah, they've got the acai tree. They've got a few native palm trees there, but a lot of palm trees, I haven't studied exactly where they come from, but there's a lot of palm trees in Africa, a lot. And if they've come from Africa, and this is where this whole, thing came from, and it wasn't about slavery, because I heard just quietly that only 1% of people from Africa, 1.4%, were actually slaves. The rest weren't even slaves. So you got people trying to decorate their houses and their streets and everything with this agriculture that's not even native to its natural habitat, and then you got all these people coming up with it, all these people coming over. All right, and not only that. That agriculture, it needs a certain habitat, it needs a certain climate to thrive in, a certain weather conditions for it to live for it to bear fruit, to live up to all it can be. And when those trees are put in areas where they don't belong, they can't thrive because the weather's not. It's not what it's not what it needs to. It's not adequate for it to grow and to bear fruit and to live properly. So what happens is you get, all these people coming up there and they can't live properly because the agriculture which they're connected to, it's failing, it can't thrive. So they can't thrive. So thus you get your communities, your poor communities, which is a lot. It's been, people are talking about it all the time. You got your poor African American communities. You got in Australia, it's your poor Aboriginal communities. Everybody's trying to figure out an answer on how they cannot be poor, on how to help these people, this group. And it's been going on for years and years, and nobody's found an answer. But I've found this answer. Okay, in Australia, people are committed to it all the time. They're always decorating their houses with these palm trees, and I see them. These betel nut trees and these date trees even, they put it, and it's not native to Australia, and it's not bearing any fruit, but yet if you put that tree where it came from back to its habitat in, say, Papua New Guinea or Fiji, you would see them fruits bearing off those trees because it's in its climate, its weather conditions where it's meant to be, in the tropics. Okay, so, how long this has been going on for a very long time. All right, and nobody's talked about it. This is an illegal, illogical market that's been exporting, that's been going on without anybody realising. Okay, nobody's put a legislation on it yet because they're careless. Most people are careless these days. Okay, so the goal is, the thought is to transport them trees back to their natural habitats, and you watch and you see the people go, and you'll see who's native to who, to where. Because I'm telling you, I don't believe the Aboriginals are native to Australia. Okay, I don't believe it. I don't believe the Indians are native to USA. I don't believe this whole Captain Cook, Columbus stories. I don't believe it. There's a conspiracy going on, all right? And that's why history, going back 1,000, 2,000 years, it's a blur. Nobody really knows what's going on. What happened in those thousands? It's not recorded properly. You've got all the libraries that burnt down over the years that are meant to have all that knowledge there, and they justly so happen or unjustly so happen to burn down, and the knowledge isn't there anymore. The only library that's available that has such knowledge in it, well, that might have what I'm talking about, the proof and, to sort of back me up, as if it's not obvious anyway, okay? But you got the Vatican Library. It's the only one that, it's maybe the most ancient books in there. That's underneath the Vatican. It's underground. That's the only one. But nobody cares. Nobody's gone there. And it's not as if I can go there. I've got things going on here. It's not as if I can go. But I would have expected somebody to have been there already, to have gone through all them books and scanned every single one of them and put them on the web, on the internet, for people to study and to look up and to see what's there. Some people have found some maps that of the globe where nobody knew about those maps. Where the whole Earth was mapped out already before these Captain Cooks and Columbuses came and everything. So, there's proof it's there, but people, it's not taught to people ignorant to it, only finding out things, this and that. But yeah, so anyway, what I'm saying is the agriculture has to be in its natural habitat, in its climate, in its weather conditions. And then people can then be native in their habitats, in their conditions, and not be poor. Okay? They can always have what's required for them to thrive and, to be who they're meant to be. Okay? So, yeah. So what have you got? Palm trees is the main example. Okay? You got all these palm trees, maybe because they're not that difficult to export. Their roots don't go down that big, and people can move them, and they can just put it in their yard to decorate and move them basically anywhere, remove them and put them anywhere. But yeah, so it's unnatural, it's wrong, and it's time to start figuring out and seeing who belongs where. All right, New Zealand, for example. You got the Maori that's meant to be, the Maori is meant to be native to New Zealand, but yet you got all these palm trees. Where they come from, they're not native to there. Supposedly, I heard a story of years ago, a lot of people vanishing from Hawaii. Nobody knows where they went. Nobody knows where they went. Nobody knows anything about where they went. So I figured, hang on a minute. Well, what if somebody began exporting palm trees out from Hawaii years ago, right? And they've ended up in New Zealand. Would not then that mean that the people ended up there with their palm trees? It has to happen automatically. The people are connected to their habitat. It's their oxygen. That's what they're connected to. It would naturally occur whether you like it or not. If and so this is happening by the year with not just palm trees, but a lot of agriculture. And if you see where certain people have ended up, and all the main countries where multicultural, they refer to it as, it's referred to as multiculturalism in Australia and the USA, mainly in England. Those three, it's always the English-speaking countries. It's something with English. It's always around these countries, right? Anyway, there's all these multicultural. Why? Why? Well, the answer is, well, maybe it's something to do with English, so that maybe figure out that bit later. But you got all this agriculture and that's being brought and planted in a habitat that doesn't belong, and then you got people going there back and forth all over the place. And you got your poor communities, and and it's easy to see why, you know. So yeah, think about it. You know, now one in Australia, a lot of people are coming over from Sudan. You know, and you know what's in Sudan? A lot of palm trees are in Sudan. A lot of palm trees, and if them palm trees have been coming over here to Australia, you know what's going to happen next. And if that's what's happened, and it might have been because people are constantly decorating their homes with them all the time, well then you know what's going to happen. You know, the people are going to come over with it. You know. And there's other causes for the mass overpopulation of areas. You know, I spoke about it before with electricity. You get all these electricity going through all these cables. It's an overload. So what's going to happen? Obviously, it has to have some consequence. So the people are going to be overloaded in that area too. So yeah, just be aware. All right, you know it's got to happen someday. The trees, namely, I'll say it again, mainly the palm trees. You know, they've got to be at least the first of a species of agriculture that has to be put back to their natural habitat. That's obvious. That's plainly obvious there. That's not meant to be in a cold climate. It's meant to be in a tropical area. So they can easily go back. Other things such as animals that have come here, that have meant to, people say, oh, this bird came from India, it's an Indian myna. There's no way that animal, that whole species came from India. There's no way it came from India. But people say, oh, it's not native to this area. You've got people putting them in cages, trying to cull them off, conspiring to cull them off, as if they're not native to Australia. I'm telling you, the word India means native, indigenous, native. Anyway, without saying that, it's obvious, as if a whole bunch, them birds are everywhere, as if somebody put them everywhere and they're going everywhere. It's ridiculous. Okay, as I was saying, I don't believe Aboriginals are native to Australia. All right, you can't get a person in a cold area living in that regard. You can't make a boomerang without modern technology. You can't make a didgeridoo without modern technology. You can't make those tools without metal. You can't. You're not going to go tropes over the whole entire of Australia in your barefoot up the cold, snowy mountains and somehow skin a kangaroo without a blade, with a rock, a sharp rock. What do you? You can't do it. Okay, it's. I've got Aboriginal friends, you know, and you know, I've got a didgeridoo in my garage, one left here. So you know, they know who I am and what I, you know, and they're cool with it, you know, because that's how I think. They're not gonna, you know. But yeah, so it's a realization people need to come to, because there's been lies. Okay, people have lied in the past. They've recreated this history and these stories of. They conjure up these stories and they say, oh, that's how it must have been. And then those stories, they end up in the curriculum, and children indoctrinated by them. And even the adults are fooled for it as well. The one for the universe, for example. You've got these two groups. You got this group that goes on about this Big Bang, and they say, oh, there must have been this Big Bang, because the universe is billions of years old because of fossils and it's been and its evolution and all of it and all that. And then you get this other group that says, oh, it must have been created by somebody. This person must have, his name is God. All right. It must have been created by somebody, so that somebody has to have been God. And they get this Genesis story of Adam and Eve. You see what's wrong here? They're conjuring something up in their heads, saying, oh, it must be that way because. When the answer is there all along. They don't know how the stars work. They don't know the universe shifts on its axis each year by 72 degrees. They don't know there's a time frame. there's around 26,000 shifts, and that's it. That's the all. And don't you think if there's a bad era, that things are always bad all the time, don't you think it would only be fair if that goes away for the good things to happen? There's the laws of the universe. There's good and bad, good and evil. Then you got, on another level, hot and cold. And then you got man and woman. And then you got you in and you out. Everything in the universe, in the laws, operate by the two things in these certain areas. Okay? And on the whole scale, don't you think, yeah, there's two big great errors. There's one good error and there's one bad error. Okay, this is how the notion of heaven and hell came from, where heaven and hell comes from. In the good era, now, when the knowledge comes, I'm saying it's now, the bad has to go away. And everybody's going to begin realizing now how all these ancients come, and people that saw knows me, that knows my posts. You got to begin to understand things, to realize how the universe, or to know how these ancients built these things. Okay, the knowledge has to become manifest. So right now, so everybody knows about them. The only way to know about them is to acknowledge the universe, the stars, the earth, and how you know. That's why you weren't taught that at school. You weren't taught that the earth shifts on its axis each year. You weren't taught that there's a time frame, that there's a precession of the equinox that's read at the same equinox, at the southern hemisphere autumn equinox. For some reason, everybody on the whole earth, whether they're in the northern hemisphere, wherever they are, they always read it from the southern hemisphere equinox in regards to the age, so that they can know what time it is, what year it is. The sun spends around 2,000 years in each of the constellations, the 13 constellations. So imagine all the other things people have conjured up and put there, saying that this native, as a group of people that went to go and say they were native to Ireland recently, and tried to put up their tribal thing in Ireland to say, and said that, their people have been persecuted for 400 years or something, and it's their land. So imagine other places. Come on. Alright, so, but yeah, so again, a cause for immigration, this illegal exporting of agriculture, foreign agriculture in areas that's not meant to be there. Okay? Start with the palm trees. It's going to happen. It's got to happen. First, the palm trees. No plants in pots. Any Indians coming over putting chili, planting chilies in chili pots in their backyards, and next minute their whole family's coming over. If the chilies are native to India, then the chilies can grow in India. They've got to go. They can't come here, because then it disrupts all the other agriculture in the area. It disrupts the habitats of all the animals and everything, because it doesn't belong here. Okay? Food has to go where it belongs. Otherwise, it causes a disturbance. It causes what's the right word for disruption? It becomes a nuisance. People suffer. So you cut it off there. Put them back to where they belong. Don't go around destroying them. Right, if you hear this, don't go around, there's stupid people that go around and say, and then go around and say, oh, you might as well chop them all down. Get rid of them all. Destroy them all. Don't be that way. There are these imbeciles putting fox traps everywhere in a conspiracy to cull all the foxes because they say they're not native. First of all, they don't have any proof that they came from Europe. That's another notion that they came from there. And why can't they catch them without the trap and send them back there and put some effort into it? It's a bit inhumane, isn't it? What about them? For all they know, they're not native here. Why don't they commit suicide? Or maybe that is one case of suicide. That people subconsciously, they're guilty of that, so they're going to commit suicide. Maybe a lot of people have, and they don't know that, committed suicide because of that mistranslation. Okay. So things have got to be done properly. People have got to migrate. You migrate, you do it properly. You immigrate. It's the wrong way. It's to improperly immigrate. Okay, so agriculture. It's got to go. It's got to stay where it belongs, and then the people stay where it belongs, where they belong, and everybody's happy. Everything work goes per usual. So think about it. All right.